What's going on, guys? Vulkan here, and today we have a huge update for V Rising. So they did a big kind of early access Q&A. This was posted a few minutes ago, and I've kind of read through it a little bit, scanning through to see really what they talk about. One big thing is the price. So the price is in this update, which we'll get to here in a moment, but they do talk about some of the other things we can expect, including, is this an MMO, or is this an action RPG, or is it a survival game? Really, what category does it fall into? So let's go ahead, let's roll through this update here, and let's talk about what we can expect from V Rising, including that price. So just kind of rolling through some of the opening kind of lines here. They talk about getting closer to early access launch. How does it feel? You know, roller coaster of emotions, regular stuff. The second question, what kind of game is V Rising? They go on to say it's an open world survival and action RPG hybrid that can be played either solo or side by side with friends. It's more of a survival game and less of an MMO. You know, they want it to be a complete survival journey rather than a forever changing MMO style world. And I know this was a big thing that a lot of people were asking about. You know, is this an actual MMO where there's going to be, you know, constant big patches and updates and the world's going to change and evolve? Maybe that definitely might be in the cards for them, but this is going to be less World of Warcraft and more like Valheim. It's going to be less, I would say, Albion, and a little bit more action RPG oriented. So these are things that I think people need to know going into it, because if they're expecting a full-blown MMO experience, they're going to most likely be disappointed. If they're expecting a big survival experience or action RPG combat, then yeah, they'll probably have a good time. So this is kind of what I've assumed going through the whole thing. And if you watch my Everything You Need to Know video, I talk about that as well. So let's go ahead and keep moving on. So they talk about building, crafting, all of that fun stuff. Really, they just talk about the big Gothic castle and building your estate as a vampire, right? You want something cool to call a domain, so this is a big piece of progression, and they don't really dive too deep into it. Again, we see some gameplay elements when it comes to building your castle in previous trailers, but for now, it's just, hey, this is going to be here. Then the next couple questions. I'm going to skip this one and go back to it because I want to talk about this real quick. So what will the price be? The price of V Rising will be $19.99 USD in euro. The price localization, for some reasons, will happen as well. I think this is a great price. This is for early access only, though. Please note, this is for early access only, because there are still things that are fluid. There are still things that are in motion. Typically, game developers will have a cheaper price for early access. V Rising is going that route as well. They do go on to say that the full release version of the game will likely be more expensive, so you want to make sure to buy it now. And that's really what we see in the gaming industry these days anyway, where you have an early access, you know, hey, our true fans, people that really like the core idea, this is sort of we're throwing you a bone a little bit, you know, get in for $19.99. Once the full release comes out, I guarantee you it's going to bump up to either $24.99 or $29.99. So it's either going to be a small or big increase. But if you want in, $20 is what they're going to start charging you. So I think that's good. Like I said, I think it's a fair price. Now, I haven't got in there. I haven't got to actually play the game, but just from what we've seen so far, for comparison, Minecraft was also $20. And we all know exactly how much content came with that game at $20. So I feel like there's a lot more going on here than that game. So good stuff, but we'll have to see exactly what we get for our money. So I would say right now, early access is going to last, I would imagine, for maybe a month, maybe 2 months at minimum. So you can go check out gameplay videos on my channel, look at the developer. They'll probably be talking about the game a lot more to see if this truly is something that you want to spend your money on. Please don't feel like you have to buy it ahead of time or buy it, you know, day one to jump in, even if you have a little bit of doubt about it. Because like I said, I'm going to be diving into the game, going through everything that there is to know about it. That way you can see if this is the right purchase for you. Now I'm going to go back up one to this question up here. So they asked if there's a skill tree in the game. We did cover this a little bit, but there are no levels or skill trees. Your progression will be about learning new abilities and customizing your kit, which is your weaponry, your build, all of that fun stuff. You'll have a set of skills given to you by your weapons that you can freely swap between during combat, and then another set of spell-like powers you gain from hunting down bosses and drinking their blood. And at that point, you'll take their abilities. So really there isn't a, you hit level 5, you unlock a new skill. There's no levels, there's no skill trees, there's no skill unlocks. It's all about taking what you have, going and hunting down bosses, enemies, really anything you're looking for, taking their abilities, and then making your own build out of that. So they say here, combining your different weapons and blood abilities to create different builds is entirely up to you. Now, this is something we talked about because in your castle estate that you build, you're going to have a blood altar. And that blood altar will ask you some questions. What do you want to go after? What do you want to do? What are some things that interest you? If you want to be a master crafter, if you want to be like a combat expert, then it'll point you in the right direction. And it'll say, hey, there's some blood over here that will probably interest you. So being able to go through and kind of plot out your own journey and plan out what you want to build around is the way this game is designed. So let's keep going through here and figure out what else the developers wanted to share with us. So they want to talk about the different numbers of vampires per clan. So it's a max of 4 power mad bloodsuckers per team. There's a clan section in the Discord that you can go check out. But right now it looks like it's 4 people per team. So again, I'm going to do a deeper dive video onto clans and how those work in V Rising. But for now, we just have a little bit of information here. So another question, they asked what the main differences between early access and full release of the game will be. And I think this is a fantastic question, especially for the price difference and what you can expect to not have and what you can expect to have between the EA version and full release. So they said they're still figuring a lot of stuff out, which is always great. While working on V Rising, there have been many additions to the long list of what we wanted to do with the game, and the scope grew with time. This always happens. I always think back to like Last Epoch. They wanted to create this little kind of small time game that was just fun, inspired by Path of Exile a little bit, inspired by Diablo 2, and it was just supposed to be this kind of fun little game. And then more and more people poured in, it got more support, and eventually it grew to this massive kind of almost borderline AAA style game that people are really looking forward to playing. So this always seems to happen. But in terms of V Rising, they're going to need more player feedback to understand how deep the rabbit hole goes and what to focus on next for their long list of things they want to do with the game. This is an excellent way to completely avoid the question about what is going to be there and what will not be there. So for now, they're just delivering an excellent vampire experience from day one in early access and a refined game with more of everything for the full release. So TBA. Continue on. They're asking if there's a Dracula status to fight over. There is, apparently. This is part of our end game. It'll be more prominent on PvP servers. There are 3 relics from the past called soul shards. You can obtain these, but you need to stand eye to eye with the 3 most powerful bosses of Vardaran, and then try to bring these items back to your castle. If you can grab all of them, you'll pretty much be Dracula, or the Draculas, plural, of the server. There will also be some perks for you and your friends with having soul shards in your castle, but watch out because other clans will do anything to get their hand on them, on your treasures is what they're going for there. So this is interesting. So I'm curious what, a few things, right? I'm curious what soul shards actually give you. They said there's perks. Does this give you increased like effects from, like sucking at your blood? Does this give you access to certain bosses? Does this give your castle some extra defenses? What truly is the perk? Is it going to be something that you actually want to go out and try to grab and risk the whole PvP thing if you're not a big PvP person? Or is this something that's more decorative where, hey, I am the Dracula of the server, and because of that, I get a cool title and you're going to recognize me, is it that type of thing? We'll have to wait and see. Again, there's a lot of wait and see stuff in here, but I do like that there is a PvP kind of gladiator or grand marshal aspect to this stuff in here. So will there be raid time for assaulting other people's bases? Again, this was a question I saw in my comments a little bit. There is. Apparently the current time slot is a 6-hour window in the evenings adjusted for your server's local time. This time frame can be adjusted in private on private servers, but for now, you can't just go to bed, wake up, and your base was assaulted. You get a 6-hour window. You get to go and try to break down a base if you can. But again, I think that this is good. It also allows you to plot things out a little bit. For everything that New World did wrong, this was one of the things that I liked, was that there was a time that people could be online and defend their stuff or assault another person's settlement. And it really just led to a lot more worthwhile PvP encounters rather than just going out there and fighting ghosts. And then we have a question about how many hours of PvE gameplay we can expect at early access. Johan says, I believe it's entirely up to what kind of player you are. In general, without speedrunning, the PvE only experience offers between 30 to 60 hours of gameplay for new players. We have players clocking 80 hours on PvE servers during the closed beta, and they're still hungry for more. I do recommend enjoying V-Rising like a fine dinner, or in the class of V-Blood. Slowly digest it. It'll be a different experience for the Castle Decorator, the Social Role Player, the Explorer, and the Bloodthirsty Raider. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit because this is something that I think, myself included, I really have a hard time separating for myself. So when it comes to rushing through games, Lost Ark is a great example of this. So Gold River, who is the game director for Lost Ark, he mentioned, hey, take your time with Lost Ark. Don't blast through it. Don't rush to end game. Don't like completely skip everything and optimize your leveling experience. Like, just enjoy the game. And myself, and I'm assuming a large piece of the population, just ran through the game, right? My situation is a little bit different because I'd played through the game multiple times on like the Russian servers, but other people who had never played it before, they did the same. They rushed through it and then they got burnt out. They got bored when it came to the end game gameplay loop. They didn't really understand a lot of the stuff that was happening because they blasted through dialogue options, and they didn't really know what to do with their time other than, you know, go grind materials, hone my gear set, try to get to the next tier. And it ended up being a very, I'll say, like, lackluster experience for them, and they felt like that game just was terrible. So when it comes to V-Rising, I would definitely double down on this. Just go through, play at your own pace, explore. Don't feel like you have to rush to end game. Don't feel like you have to, you know, try to be the first person there, or the game doesn't start till end game type of thing. With a game that has no levels, and with a game that's all about exploration, survival, and action RPG elements, there isn't really a big push. There really isn't a big reason to, like, you know, drive forward and try to get there as soon as possible. So enjoy it. If you see something that's interesting to you, feel free to break away from your path and go and explore it. Maybe it's something cool, and maybe it'll change the way you think of the game, or maybe it'll unlock something new for you. And next thing you know, you never liked decorating castles before, but you're like all about it this time around. So this is a really cool thing, and I think that it's a good piece of information to abide by. Okay, server questions incoming. Quite a few, actually. A couple of people ask how many players will fit on a server. Can you tell us more about this? Will there be server wipes? And what regions are on officially hosted servers? Okay, so let's break this thing down. So first off, each server will exist in its own dependent world, and we plan to have different settings to cater to different type of players. The base game will be the same, but with the ability to decide on different modes, like do you want to do PvE only or a variety of PvP servers. You can play with your friends in a 2-person clan in PvP, or there will also be servers that only allow 2-person clans or make it so you have to go solo. There will also be one server type that is only for the most hardcore vampire PvPers, where you put all of your gear on the line with every death, and your castle can become vulnerable to capture or total destruction. This is interesting. So full loot PvP is coming to V-Rising. I think this is going to be something people are really going to like. I myself probably won't be participating in that because that's just not something I enjoy. But I know a lot of people are really excited for full loot PvP games. New World's a great example. People were not happy that they got rid of full loot PvP. So this is something that I think, and I'm glad they're putting it on a separate server. Choose that server if you want to, but otherwise you can go for full-blown PvE only. So I really like that. Our official servers will also be available in a few different regions, thanks to G-Portal. North America, Europe, Brazil, South Africa, Taiwan, Australia, and Japan. There's no region locking either, so you can connect to a server of your preference, even if you're far away. This I really like. 40 players at a time on official servers, so max player size of 40. I think that's 40 players, 40 castles, all over the globe. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming through there as well. And I think this seems like it's going to be really low, but I think the impact on the actual server itself is going to be very high. So the game has become more complex over time. We want to provide the best possible experience and good performance on the official servers as we launch in early access. We do not plan to wipe official servers right now. So for those that get in early access, there will not be a wipe planned. So that means once it goes live, you'll be able to keep your progress. So we'll see. But this is going to be interesting because how is this going to work with players that have fully established castles, players that have a deep, recipe catalog, players that have all of these like really rare blood types that they'll be able to leverage. Will that be something that'll cause issues in the future? I'm not entirely sure. It very well could, but we don't know all the specifics around those things right now, even if there's like a time limit to blood, if there's a stacking limit to blood. I'm not sure, but not having a server wipe is going to be interesting, and I think it'll split the community a little bit. So let's look at the next question here. Okay, so we have Mr. Groovy, and he's asking how private servers will work. Let's see, private servers are really exciting. They have over 60 different settings that can be adjusted, including larger or smaller clan sizes, player caps, damage from and to specific sources, resource yields. There are even things like starting equipment, starting resources, starting spell and V-Blood unlocks. For those who want to make strict PvP or tournament style servers, that'd be cool, like a big kind of gladiator style thing. Hosting a private server comes in different forms. You can go through G-Portal, you can use your own machine if you want to do that. Really, there's a lot of options here. Anyway, private servers let players take advantage of all of our settings and experiment to your dark heart's content. Some things may be a bit stressful if you're running over 40 players on the server at the same time. So make sure you try it. If you try it, you're doing it on a PC that's Dracula powerful. So Argon asks how the team plans to support the game long-term financially. Will there be microtransactions, season passes, etc.? There is no in-game shop planned for early access launch, but they will release DLC packs. This is interesting. Will these DLC packs be a requirement for some official servers? Will they be just something like a skin pack or a castle pack where you might see different things out in the world and it's more cosmetic than it is actual content? I'm very interested to see how this is going to actually plan out, but apparently information on our first DLCs is coming very soon. Something special for fans willing to give us some extra support during development, aka extra money. I wouldn't rule out season passes, but it's not on the roadmap for now. They want to fine-tune all the mechanics and focus on making V-Rising as great as possible for the full release. This is the right way to do it. Don't come out in early access with a season pass in hopes that, oh, hey, if you guys want to support the game, here's some, give me some extra money. Focus on making the game good, and then people will naturally want to purchase a season pass, or they'll naturally want to support your development. Are there custom keybinds? Yes. Let's see. Random events, random dungeons, random encounters. Good question. Random world events are definitely something we want to look into on the road to full release, and something I believe will make the world even more exciting. We do have some pretty awesome randomness in our world already. Except for other players, we have different creatures and humans roaming the world, even fighting with each other, creating fun and dynamic moments with tons of destructible objects on the map. You can witness some really cool battles. So right now, there's patrolling units, there's rare mobs, there's legendary creatures, I'm assuming, all of these different things that are going to be found out in the world. But for now, there are no actual world events that are going to be happening. This is something I do think that adding into the game is going to be really good. It's going to make, it's going to draw the community together. Whether that's for good or for bad, right? For PvE or for PvP. Now, one thing that immediately comes to my mind, and you can love it or hate it, but I really enjoyed the rift system in Rift, the MMO. I liked how a just major rift could spawn in the middle of a zone, and you saw all these players just flowing towards it because they wanted the rewards from it. And that created some very interesting dynamics, right? On a PvE server, you had everybody working together, trying to get the boss down, that way they could get the rewards. On a PvP server, you had people fighting each other and the boss at the same time, either to troll or to grief or just for, like, who's the last person standing, all of these things. And that really created a super fun, like, just almost like a book of memories for me, because going through and experiencing all of that was really cool. And I hope that they decide to add something similar to V-Rising. Okay, so this individual really wants to know if there will be an in-game voice chat. Yes, they do have a VoIP feature that'll be available on our officially hosted servers. Nice. So this is something, again, that I really like. It helps create a more immersive experience, helps bring community members together. I still remember playing New World, and for the first time hearing someone just like come over my speakers freaked me out. But it was really cool. And while a lot of people abused it, whether that is through like, making a super annoying noise or something like that, there's also some really cool features where, you could meet somebody while you're out fishing and talk to them and get to interact with other members of the community. Man, I said Wazapire 321 is all about it. Let's see. If any, how will full loot PvP look in the game? So full loot PvP is the most challenging mode that you can play. So when you load up your crossbow and take a shot at the Vampire King, you better not miss. You're risking your gear and everything that you're carrying, even the rare headgear you've looted from the Necromancer's Horde. That's full loot. Basically, everything that you have on your entire body will be dropped onto the ground. Will castles be limited to one floor? Yes. It will be limited to one floor, as the top-down perspective comes with challenges and limitations in building multiple floors. However, you can find the right sweet spot to raise your castle and get the feeling of having more than one floor by building on hills and creating stairways down to the ground below. And sometimes you must fight for that fine piece of land. Mystic wants to know if we can name our vampires. You definitely can. How many people like Lordaeron are wondering about character customization? Well, apparently here it is. Here's the different ways you can customize your character. We got body type, we got skin tone, face, eye color, hairstyle, hair color, features, and accessories. They did say there's also other features like jewelry and beards. After you get in game, there's plenty of rare capes and headgear to collect. Some few people are asking if there's any chance some work and love will be given to Battlerite again. They said thank you, but V-Rising is our only focus for now. So there you go. Let's see. All want to know the plan for game updates during early access. So our mission will be to find what's most important to our players and how to take V-Rising to the next level. We currently plan to work on more extensive updates rather than run for frequent smaller patches and minor changes. It's too early to tell when the first bigger V-Rising content patch will arrive, as we will give it the time to make sure it brings something new to the experience. On this topic, people are wondering if there are any specific features or areas of the game you will focus on for future updates. Balance what we got started and get the game tested in early access before saying for sure what the team will be hammering on. We could potentially go deeper with our building, make PvE and interactions with the world's inhabitants more exciting, or perhaps work more on PvP combat and castle rating improvements. There's a lot of potential with role-playing features, refining our endgame and expanding the world of Varderon in different ways. So cool. Looks like really like an early access game, they need to see what they need us to get in there and break stuff and get in there and tell them like, hey, this is not good or this is really good. That way they can sort of create a priority matrix on what they need to focus on. Good old Sir Medieval, this guy, great content creator. He asked if there are any plans for new weapons to be added shortly after early access. Basically another prioritization thing, maybe. How shapeshifting works in game will be temporary, like a timer, can use it at will, can you stay in one form. They experiment with all sorts of different options for how we wanted to shapeshift to work, but in the end we decided it just feels good to turn into your form and keep it until you break out of it. There are ways to get forced out of some forms, like taking damage or using an ability. This is talking about like bat forms. We see a little bit of gameplay for that, but not really a ton of it. But again, this is something that I think people really enjoy, and I think this is the right way to do it. You know, there's nothing worse than like, okay, trying to time it, you know, I'm gonna turn into a bat, but I only get 30 seconds. Where do I go? You know, how do I take full advantage of this? Now I have a cooldown. If there's not a cooldown, then why not just make it permanent? So there's a lot of things that go into it. I'm glad they decided just to say, hey, you know what, turn it on. If you get hit, damaged, whatever, then you'll be pulled out of your shapeshift. But for the most part, go forth and conquer. A year ago, you mentioned that V Rising was inspired by everything from Netflix's Castlevania to classic horror literature. How important is the vampire theme? So it's the soul of the game, which makes sense. I mean, they even named it V Rising. Vampire is in the title. So from here, a place where humans rule and the vampires are the underdogs. We knew from the beginning that feeding on blood would be essential for the fantasy, both as a survival mechanic and a power booster. As different blood types give your vampire various perks, what really made us go full circle with the game loop was when we added V-Blood, which only the strongest enemies have in their veins. V-Blood gives you special powers, Mega Man style, where you obtain the abilities from the defeated bosses by drinking their blood. You should, as always, stay away from garlic fields, holy grounds, and the deadly sunlight, but hey, it wouldn't be a true vampire adventure if you couldn't turn into a bat. So, pretty cool stuff. How important has the closed beta testing been for the team to get ready for early access? We would not have been able to do it without our trusted testers, which makes sense. Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you, Johan. Do you have any final words? I need to say that I'm amazed by our community. It's genuinely heartwarming to see all of you good people following us, interacting, and giving us feedback daily. Our Discord has been so much fun, and shout outs to our mods for always being there and always supporting. I'm happy to see all of our new vampire fans as veterans who have been with us since Bloodline Champions, Dead Island Epidemic, and Battlerite, sharing their thoughts and speculations. So guys, overall, I think this has been a solid, it's been a solid blog post. There's a ton of information here. We learned about different mechanics. We learned about the pricing. We learned about full loop PvP. We learned about all kinds of different stuff that's going to be coming with the game. We only have a few days left before early access. It's going to be super exciting, and honestly, I can't wait to dive in and start creating content around it. I already have a full list of things that I want to look for, things that I want to kind of pursue, figure out, and create content for you guys around. So let me know in the comment section below if this game looks exciting to you guys, or if this is definitely going to be a play or a skip. As always, thank you so much for all the support. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.